Please, I just want a cake, whispered little Anna, her tears dripping onto the cold kitchen floor. The 7-year-old sat beside an old, unlit candle stuck into a piece of dry bread. Her mother was gone, and her father, a busy millionaire, hadn't come home in weeks. Outside, thunder growled as she pressed her tiny hands together and prayed, "Maybe Daddy will remember this time." The house felt too big for her small heart. The walls that once echoed laughter now stood silent, heavy with memories of birthdays filled with music, hugs, and warmth. She looked at the clock, almost midnight. Her birthday was slipping away with every second, and all she had was a piece of stale bread pretending to be a cake. That same night, Mr. Coleman sat in the back seat of his sleek black car, his phone pressed to his ear. "Sell the shares. I don't care about the loss, just do it," he barked before hanging up, his temples throbbing. His empire was crumbling, and his pride hurt more than his wallet. When the driver asked if they were heading home, Mr. Coleman almost said no. He didn't even know what home felt like anymore. The mansion was just another property, cold, sterile, quiet. Yet something tugged at him that night, a strange, gentle whisper he couldn't ignore. Maybe it was the rain, maybe it was the exhaustion in his chest, but for the first time in months, he said quietly, "Take me home." When he stepped through the front door, the air felt different. Still, but alive somehow. He dropped his coat on the marble floor, ready to scold whoever had left the lights dimmed. But then he saw her. His little girl, curled up on the kitchen floor, her tiny hands holding a piece of bread with a candle stuck in it. The flame trembled weakly, like it was struggling to stay alive. Mr. Coleman froze. His briefcase slipped from his hand with a heavy thud. For a moment, even the storm outside seemed to pause. All he could hear was the quiet, broken sound of his daughter's sobs. "Anna," he whispered, barely recognizing his own voice. She looked up slowly, her eyes swollen and red, yet still full of hope. "Daddy, you came?" she said softly, her voice trembling between disbelief and joy. He stood frozen, guilt flooding his chest. This was his daughter, his only family left, and he had forgotten her birthday. She wiped her cheeks and tried to smile. "I waited for you. I made a wish." He swallowed hard. "A wish?" She nodded. "That you'd come home so we could have cake together." Her words shattered him. The empire he had built, the wealth he chased, the meetings that ruled his life, none of it mattered anymore. He crouched down beside her, his eyes glistening. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," he whispered, voice breaking. She smiled faintly, still protecting him with her innocence. "It's okay, Daddy, I know you're busy." That forgiveness, simple and pure, hurt more than anything else. He looked at the bread and the fading candle, then at her hopeful little face. "How about we fix this?" he said gently. Her eyes lit up instantly. "You mean make a real cake?" He nodded. "A real one. Together." In minutes, the quiet kitchen transformed into a world of laughter and mess. The millionaire who once commanded boardrooms now stood confused, covered in flour, while trying to measure sugar with his shaking hands. He burned the first batch, dropped eggs on the floor, and nearly flooded the counter with milk. But every mistake brought a new laugh from Anna. Bright, musical, healing. The sound filled the house like sunlight breaking through years of gray clouds. They mixed and stirred side by side. Her little hands guided his big ones as if teaching him how to live again. Time melted away. When the cake finally came out of the oven, uneven and imperfect, Anna gasped. "It's beautiful," she said proudly. He laughed through tears. "It's a mess." She shook her head, smiling. "No, Daddy, it's perfect, because we made it together." They sat at the table, sharing warm slices of the cake. For the first time in years, he didn't check his phone, didn't think of deals or deadlines. He just watched her. Her messy hair, her frosting-stained smile, the light in her eyes. Each giggle mended something broken inside him. "I missed you," she said quietly. "I missed you too," he replied, realizing how empty his victories had been without her voice in them. The mansion no longer felt like a cage, it finally felt like home. As the rain outside softened into a gentle drizzle, Mr. Coleman carried Anna in his arms toward her room. She rested her head on his shoulder, whispering, "This was my best birthday ever." His chest tightened. "I'm glad, sweetheart," he said, tucking her in. Watching her drift to sleep, he felt the full weight of his mistakes. He had spent years buying everything except the one thing that mattered: time with her. He sat alone by the window afterward, the city lights glowing faintly through the rain. His phone buzzed again. More calls, more numbers, more noise. For the first time, he turned it off completely. In the silence that followed, he felt peace. He finally understood love wasn't about money or gifts. It was about presence, showing up when it mattered, holding on instead of walking away. Dawn crept in, painting the world in pale pink and gold. He went back to Anna's room, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She looked so peaceful, so safe. He leaned down and whispered, "From now on, I promise, you'll never have to wait for your cake alone again." He stood there for a long time, the morning light wrapping him in quiet warmth. For once, the man who owned everything didn't feel powerful or proud or busy. He felt human, and that was enough. As the first birds began to sing, he walked to his office and closed his laptop, not to end a deal, but to begin again. The rain had washed the night clean, leaving behind something new. A father's heart reborn in the simple laughter of a child beating softly in a home that finally remembered what love sounded like. He dropped his suitcase, his breath catching in his throat. "Anna, what are you doing?" he asked softly, stepping into the heavy silence of the house. The faint glow of a single candle lit the dining table, and there she was, his little girl, sitting alone with a piece of dry bread on a plate. She looked up, her eyes swollen from crying yet filled with hope. "Waiting for you, Daddy, so we can have cake together," she whispered. The words pierced through him. For a man who'd conquered boardrooms, he suddenly felt powerless. Without speaking, he knelt beside her and pulled her close. She was warm, trembling, and heartbreakingly small in his arms. For years, he had told himself he was working for her future. But right now he realized he had been missing her present. "Come on," he said, standing up and taking her hand. "Let's make a real cake." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You mean, together?" He smiled faintly. "Yes, together." In the kitchen, the world shrank to just the two of them. He fumbled with the flour bag, coating himself in white dust. Anna burst into laughter. "You look so funny, Daddy." He laughed too, a sound that felt strange after so long. Eggs cracked, milk spilled, and sugar covered the counter. Yet for the first time in years, the chaos felt right. The house, once cold and echoing, now hummed with warmth. Anna hummed as she stirred the batter, her little hands moving with care. Mr. Coleman watched her, feeling something stir deep within him, a sense of peace he hadn't felt since his wife passed. When the cake finally went into the oven, they sat on the floor together, leaning against the cabinet. The smell of vanilla filled the room. "Daddy," Anna said softly, "did you ever make cakes when you were little?" He smiled. "No, but I wish I had." She looked up, eyes shining. "Now you did." The oven dinged, and she jumped up, clapping. "It's ready!" He opened the door carefully. The cake wasn't perfect, burnt at the edges, uneven, but to Anna, it was magic. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Together, they decorated it with messy hearts and crooked letters spelling, "Happy Birthday, Anna." She giggled when he dabbed frosting on her nose, and he laughed, returning the favor. When they lit the candle, the little flame flickered between them. "Make a wish," he said. She closed her eyes, whispered something, and blew it out. "What did you wish for? That you'll never forget my birthday again." His throat tightened. "I won't," he promised quietly. Later, they sat on the couch, sharing their imperfect cake. The TV stayed off, phone silent. Anna leaned against his shoulder, crumbs on her chin, happiness on her face. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about deals or deadlines. Just her. As she drifted to sleep beside him, Mr. Coleman looked around the house. The expensive walls, the perfect furniture, all meaningless without this moment. The silence that once suffocated him now felt peaceful. A tear slipped down his cheek, not of guilt, but of gratitude. He carried Anna to her room and tucked her under her favorite blanket. Watching her breathe softly, he whispered, "From now on, my time belongs to you." Downstairs, his laptop still glowed with urgent messages. He stared at it, then closed it gently. The sound echoed like an ending and a beginning. Outside, rain began to fall, soft and cleansing. Mr. Coleman stood by the window, coffee in hand, watching the droplets race down the glass. He thought of his late wife, of promises once forgotten, and whispered, "I'll do better. For her, for Anna." In that quiet moment, he was no longer the millionaire Mr. Coleman, but simply a father who had finally come home. And as dawn crept in, the house smelled faintly of vanilla and warmth. A reminder that the real gift wasn't success or wealth, but love that chooses to stay.